with mature industries, or what's becoming more mature industries in states like Massachusetts. We are
What does
waiting.
that do? What does that allow for?
It basically allows for this not to just be a cash business, right, and to have financial regulations and deposits and a banking system that can support this industry, and that hasn't seen the light of day so far in the Senate.
Oh, yeah.
But it did pass through the House, and it passed through in a bipartisan manner. So as you've sort of prioritized bills that hopefully will get attention in the Senate,
They're a little busy now.
So it passed the House and it's sort of stalled in the Senate.
It was a really big deal for that to pass in the House as it did with the bipartisan nature.
Why?
I think, all of the data certainly exists on how public opinion is changing in the United States as it relates to cannabis. I think CBD, even though people really don't know what it does, and it still needs an extraordinary amount of study to see if it's a placebo or if it really has a physiological effect. I think the combination around CBD started to make people more comfortable that this is here to stay, that there are more parts of this cannabis plant than what may have been laughed about in movies or really over-publicized from the recreational standpoint, that even though there's more to learn about each of these cannabinoids, there is a lot of positivity that can come from them. And so that led to, as the data shows, and in my opinion, that led to a really monumentally fast-paced change in opinion. The uptake in
An opinion about legalization.
an opinion of legalization, and specifically about medical legalization. There's more, it's more opaque, the data around recreational.
And that helped the banking, people get more comfortable in it. We're thinking about legalizing the banking of marijuana. It's not legal yet federally, but that's one step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So the
And
banking piece might happen, but what about the legalization of the plant? Where's that?
Schedule 1, changing the schedule from Schedule 1 drug, you mean?
Yeah, because we had the U.S. Attorney talking about we may or may not pursue. What's your take on that?
So right now I think that there is a lot of momentum and there are a lot of discussions in terms of legalizing marijuana across the country. I'm super mindful of the context that we're living in, right now, and I think that, we've passed almost 300 bills so far, just in this session alone, and they are, virtually stalled in the Senate. So I think folks are kind of laying the groundwork and thinking through, what's achievable in 2021. But certainly, I think one of the things that I learned in just, chatting along the tour is how much Massachusetts was able to learn from states that preceded them, learning from the lessons of other states. And I think the federal government should frankly take the same approach. I mean, we do have these states that have probably learned a ton of lessons as it pertains to whether it's operations, regulations, making sure the products don't appeal to children, the effects on public safety, public health, whatever it might be. Taking the lessons from each of these states, I think will be important as we move forward.
Do you think businesses like this one can help revitalize abandoned buildings, old mill buildings that are empty right now across Massachusetts?
Well, this is the case study right here. And the mayor can speak to it best, but I mean, in terms of economic development and the 100,000 square feet?
Yeah, this is 140,000 so far, another 100,000 to go.
I mean, that's square footage laid dormant. And the thing that we want to see is these mill buildings be revitalized, contribute to the economic development, the tax base of the city certainly, and that's basically what you've achieved here.
Full parking lots.
That's the driving force, and that's my role, is this was an economic development initiative because of the fact, as the representative mentions, we had a number of buildings that were unoccupied, off the tax rolls. This is an opportunity not just to bring an industry in that's going to create revenue, which is going to help my bottom line, but also, even more importantly, hire people. put people to work in Fitchburg, but also regionally. So important.
Mayor, do you know how many buildings like this that are empty, that are available?
We've got left, you mean? I don't know. AJ, what do you think? Maybe a couple. There's just a
A handful?
couple. I want to say 2 or 3 that would serve some other, because some of them probably should be demolished, but
Gotcha.
that's another story. But they're still privately owned. But, yeah, we're, and I think that, Keith mentioned initially, I don't know if you were in the room, but that we are welcoming to this industry because, again, for the reasons I just mentioned, revenue, economic development, and jobs. So,
Hey, and I'll tell you one cool thing. I mean, Ryan Anson, when he was describing the start of his business here, and he was sweeping floors in his family's shoe factory, and he wanted to come back home to his community and start a business or a place where he could, grow jobs. I mean, I grew up in Lowell. I'm working in a mill building that my grandmother came, from Portugal. She was a mill girl in that building. I mean, there is a certain satisfaction that you get when you see the restoration of a mill building that was so vital in terms of the economy, 100 years ago, 50 years ago. And, you see it sort of revitalized in this way. So that's kind of a cool, full circle family business, kind of investing in Fitchburg.
the Anson, you're just continuing the legacy of the Anson family that created jobs in an industry that employed a number of people in the shoe industry, and you're back doing that again and carrying that forward with the family name. We appreciate it.
Because Fitchburg was creative and forward-thinking.
Yeah, there you go.
So we
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.